Quick check-in. Have you ever been grieving something but still expected to show up like nothing's wrong? Yeah, same. This episode will touch on grief, infertility, and loss. Please take care while listening. Welcome to The Balanced Recruiter, a slightly unhinged, definitely honest space where we talk about burnout, balance, and navigating life when it doesn't slow down just because we need it to. Hi, I'm Chastity, professional plate spinner, laundry dodger, proud puppy mom, and someone who's learning that grief doesn't always look like what people expect. When my husband and I experienced loss, we got on a plane. We went to Osaka. Osaka became this space for us. Quiet, grounding, held. We were surrounded by people who loved us, and somehow that made the weight feel less heavy. And today, we're talking about grief. The kind that doesn't clock out. The kind that follows you into work and into your relationships, into everything. Grief doesn't always look like crying, even though I'm crying right now. Sometimes it looks like being distracted, being exhausted for no clear reason, not caring about things you normally care about, feeling off but not knowing why, functioning but barely. And that's the hard part because on the outside, you look totally fine. You're still showing up, still replying to the emails, you're still doing what needs to get done. But internally, you're carrying something heavy. And people don't always see it. Let's talk about how this connects because I talk about burnout, right? So, how does grief connect with burnout? Grief drains your emotional capacity. Burnout drains your physical and your mental energy. So, when they show up together, you don't just feel tired, you feel empty. And then comes the spiral. Why can't I focus? Why am I so irritable? Why am I so exhausted all the time? And maybe it's not a productivity issue. Maybe it's grief. You're not lazy. You're just carrying something heavy. Something I didn't realize at first is how closely grief and burnout can start to look the same. Because grief doesn't just sit in your emotions, it shows up in your energy, your focus, your patience. And over time, if you don't have space to process it, it starts to feel like burnout. You're exhausted all the damn time. You don't have the same capacity. Things that used to feel easy feel heavy. And you start to think, what the frick is wrong with me? But sometimes nothing is wrong with you. You're just carrying something you haven't had time to put down. And it works the other way too. When you've been burned out for too long, you can actually start grieving. Grieving your energy, your motivation, the version of you that used to feel lighter. Grieving the version of work or life that used to feel easier. And that's the part we don't talk about enough. That burnout isn't just exhaustion. Sometimes it's loss. So when you feel both, it's not confusing because you're broken. It's confusing because they overlap. April is Infertility Awareness Month, and there's a full week dedicated to it. And I think what's important about that is not just awareness, but also understanding. Because infertility isn't just a medical experience, it's emotional, mental, relational. And a lot of the time, it shows up as grief. The quiet kind. One more time. This part is for anyone navigating infertility, loss, or the in between. Because this kind of grief is quiet, invisible, and often misunderstood. It's the cycle of hope, waiting, disappointment, and trying again. And the hardest part, people don't always know what to say. So they say nothing, or they say something that doesn't quite land. The one that says, there's other plans for you, or don't worry, it's not your time, or it'll come if you just relax. But just because our loss and how we feel is not visible doesn't mean it's not heavy. Okay, so I'm excited because I have my first guest. And I think it's really important. And this was such a great pivotal point in my podcast to bring in my first guest. Very special to me. So I wanted to bring on a different perspective here because we talk a lot about how we feel, but not always how the person besides us is experiencing this. So I'm going to have my husband's POV, his point of view. Hey, husband.
Hi.
I just wanted to bring you on and just kind of like dig deep about how you felt through grief and how you handled it. So I just have a few questions, if that's okay. Yeah? Okay. I wanted to see and ask, what did grief look like for you during this time?
I think grief, when it happened for us, was very dark and, of course, very sad. And the feelings that I had was a lot of confusion and anger. I don't say I shut myself off to the world, but I did. To be honest, I shut myself off to God. I didn't want to go to church. Um, I tried to go back to church, and when I was there, I couldn't sit there for the whole mass. As soon as somebody said hello to me, how are you doing? I started crying. So, I mean, it was very emotional. It just felt alone. Grief was just hard for me to deal with at the time, especially since it was so new and something that we tried so hard and we wanted so much, and we loved so much. I was in a bad place at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I know that you touched on feeling lonely, even though we had each other. It it does put you into a dark place. Did you feel like you had to be strong?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I felt like I had to be strong because I don't know, maybe it's the male bravado kind of thing that I have to be strong for my family, be strong for my wife. You kind of get that feeling like, oh, men are strong in the signs of weakness if you kind of show you're crying. Behind closed doors, I would cry close to it. I even kind of shed a tear too when I was talking about it to people. It's not a sign of weakness or anything like that to even feel the grief or feel the sadness, because I think it's worse if you don't actually share. You're even stronger when you actually share what you're going through.
I like that. You're actually stronger when you share. I feel that helped. That was a huge reason why we could actually not deal with it, but we could actually go through it. What do you think people misunderstand about how men or even partners process this?
I don't know about misunderstanding. I think people just think that, okay, well, the experiences is different between a man and a woman. You carried our baby, and that was the happiest time of our lives. The day that we found out, I remember it was the best news on our anniversary that we got. But, when it happened and we found out physically, I know that your body was going through stuff. So it was hard for you, especially what you're experiencing. And then for me, it was just trying to be strong. And I don't think people have misunderstandings about it. It's just, I don't know if they just treat us differently because I am the husband and you're the wife. Okay, well, part of it too, though, when we were going through it, I think, or if the sympathy can be leaned more towards you, I guess, because I know the experience and the emotion probably was heavier because you had experienced it physically versus me would have been more just the emotional side. So to comfort you physically would have been something that might have been a difference as well too.
I know that it feels different, but do you feel that the partners are still experiencing some high emotions that do you think that they don't get as much support emotionally through things like this?
No, I mean, sometime. I don't know if that was the case for us. You know, people that we have known that have experienced it, I guess. You always notice, you can see it more in the wives than the males because I guess they don't show it as much.
Mm.
And I think that's why it's like, okay, well, I mean, if the man doesn't talk about it, if it's not expressed, you don't want to offend. And I think people probably just didn't want to say anything to make me feel bad or anything like that.
Mm. That's a big misunderstanding. I can.
Yeah. Even for me too, though, at the time, it's like, I guess because I'm more of a quiet person, so I don't know how to express it to anybody, right? And even like to you being the actual carrier, and I know that you had a lot of emotion. It was more of my emotion kind of fed off of you just because I didn't know how to comfort you. And that's where I felt weak at the time because it's like, I know you're going through it and I don't know what to do. I just know I need to be there. I didn't know what to say at the time. All I could say is, I'm here and we're in it together and I love you.
What actually helped you in feeling supported?
I'm glad that I had you at the time to go through it with. And then even a lot of the other folks around me, like mom and dad, mommy, all our sisters, they all were there for us. They supported us. I don't know if they understood what we were going through. When I talked to other people or when I mentioned like what had happened to us, they knew how to empathize with us and they knew how to kind of just be there for us if needed somebody to talk to. And then even with that too, though, I know that we were always searching for communities that were going through the same issues or they had the same things that we were experiencing. And a lot of comforting words and a lot of comfort came from that too. Just being able to kind of talk about it. Friends, our family, each other, still hope, and just being able to wake up every day with each other still yet. Just being there for each other. And if we wanted to talk about it, just to talk about it. And they didn't have to have a response. They didn't have to have an answer. There's times when I would just stand in the shower and I would cry because of the emptiness I felt at the time. But I would talk about it with you afterwards, and that would help me ease the pain, I guess, a little bit more. And now, like even now when we talk about it, it's still part of us.
Right. How do you think, if it did, it affected your work life?
At the time, like I said, I was in a dark place or I just felt angry, hurt, confused, lonely, and I couldn't focus on work. I would sit there and I'd go back and I'd look at the pictures, our pictures, and I would just be like, okay, well, I there's time I didn't want to work, but then there's also I wanted to work because it kind of took my focus off, kind of kept my mind busy. So that's how it affected my work. I think if there was one thing that I could share or give advice to somebody that's going through the same thing that we went through is be open about it. Be open with your partner, your friends, and your family. don't try to hold it all in, because if you do, it has this tendency to kind of eat at you, and it causes more strain, both emotionally and physically. Like, if I didn't say anything, or if I didn't have the support that I have, that I always have, if I held it in, I probably would have felt a lot more tired. I would have felt a lot more frustrated. I would have felt a lot more um, angry. But allowing myself to talk about it and share it, especially with us, you know, openness with that we had, it kind of helped out a lot.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think we forget that grief doesn't just affect one person. It affects both people, just differently. And whether you're a husband, a partner, a wife, or just a person walking through it with you, everyone processes it in their own way. There is no fix for grief, no timeline, obviously. It can go through years, days, months, and there's no right way to do it. But there are ways to support yourself, letting yourself feel it, like you mentioned, not forcing productivity, not forcing yourself to move through it quickly, um, open communication and communicating honestly, lowering expectations when the days are hard. Some people put bigger expectations on themselves when they're going through grief, because it's the expectations of pouring themselves either into work and doing a great job or moving quickly. But I feel that on hard days, that's when you should give yourself grace.
Well, we took it one step further, I guess you could say. We just said, okay, well, we're going to go to Osaka, Japan, and just be like, okay, let's get away from it all. Not suggesting that you do that, but,
Or
you
run
know,
away.
or it's like a runaway, because I mean, it's still there, but it does. I think that's something that kind of helped for us. It's our safe place. You know, we felt safe there. And
But most importantly, I think it's definitely giving yourself permission to feel everything. Because some days the goal isn't just to move forward. Some days it's just to get through it. Whether you're sitting in the same spot or jumping on a plane and running to a place where you feel safe or feel good in, right? I know that's why we did it, was because we just needed to feel, I think, held, embraced.
mm,
Yeah. So honestly, if I could go anywhere right now while I'm tearing up and snorting my boogers, I'd be back in Osaka,
mm.
walking slowly, no pressure to be anything really, no expectation to have it all together, because I don't think we did, but just being held in a place that lets you feel everything without needing you to explain it. And the good food doesn't hurt either. Right? Maybe that's all we all really need sometimes. Not solutions, not timelines, just space. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Balance Recruiter. If today's version of balance looks like just getting through the day, then that's enough. Episodes drop every week, just in time for the weekend. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a rating if you can. It helps this space reach someone who might need it too. Remember, burnout is real, balance is the goal, and I'm somewhere in between blowing my boogers in this tissue that's overused. We'll see you on the next episode.